Okay, so we finished the rule broker. The next piece that we need to do is we need to, at the top level under SRC, we need a new folder called Business Rules. So then we got brokers, business rules, controllers, eccentrics, and that new file is called rulesLibrary.js. Okay. And rules library, we have our usual header. That file, rulesLibrary.js. That module, rulesLibrary. That description contains all of the system defined business rules as an object between, well, I guess I could say as a map between function names and function calls. Now that's a little bit long, so business rules as, I'm going to return there, as a map between function names and function calls. And it requires module arrayParsing, requires module string parsing, and requires module data, data, and the rest we can copy paste, which is a file, author, date, copyright, blah blah blah, all that business. Okay, so there's the path, author, date, copyright, and today's date is the 25th. I'm going to just keep going here. We need to have let array parsing equals. We're going to go ahead and require the rules array parsing. Let string parsing equals require. Oops, did I spell something wrong over here? Array P-A-R-S. No, okay, I'm good. Equals require rules. Oh, now I'm spelling it wrong. Rules string parsing and let b equals require structures data. Let path equal require path. Oh, this is the same stuff we got over here, so just copy paste it, I guess. You can just copy paste these. And put them there, and then instead of brokers, it's business rules. We really only have one function here, export const init rules library, which we called from the rule broke. You remember correctly, we did that yesterday. It's a function, and we'll go ahead and write the header for that.
Init rules library?
Init rules, yep, that's it. The header is going to look like this. There is a note in here that's fairly heavy, but overall it's kind of light. Okay. Init rules library, that description initializes the business rules function data structure, and it's going to return void. And I take any parameters, author, and you find 0125, and then we do have a note here which is kind of heavy. Please be aware that the commands and business rules data fields in the D data structure are going to display as empty when printing out the D data structure, even when using JSON.stringify. Okay, oops, stringify. Is because the functions cannot really be serialized in any way. It actually kind of makes sense, but could be really confusing if trying to debug commands or business rules that do not appear to exist. Yeah. Now that's an important note, because if you're trying to debug and you try to print out the init rules library, you're going to get an empty object. It's not going to look like it has anything in it. And you might like try to start hitting your head against a wall or a desk or something, because you defined it, it's right there, and clearly you're calling it, so why is it empty? You know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So this is just calling out that it's expected that it's going to be empty, because there's no way to serialize it. Right. That's all that's doing. You know, just to call it out, and so that if you ever are fighting with that, and you happen to see that note, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why. There's other ways, other things you can do to debug it, other than trying to print out the rules library or the commands. So inside here, let function name library dot name and console.log. We cannot use regular loggers here because we don't have regular loggers. So backtick. I'm just going to copy paste it. I guess I can't copy paste this. $ curly brace, namespace prefix, $ curly brace, function name, function.
Copy and paste that, right?
I don't think so. It's been a minute since we actually did it this way, so you might have to write it up this time.
Yeah, I'll have it right here.
Oh, you do? Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And there'll probably be an end.
Same deal, end?
Yeah, there'll be an end. Yeah, there it is. Good call.
All right.
Okay. And then we need to do this D business rules equals an empty object. And you remember, back in our rule broker, this is we said we were going to define it, and that's it right there. We're defining it right there. Mm-hmm. So D equals, and now we're going to actually fill it out. So there's a whole bunch of them. I'm just going to start dropping them in here. There's echo, and that takes input data, input metadata, arrow function, console.log, json.stringify, input data. So I'm just echoing back as a function. I'm calling a line of code that's console.log. That's a great way to test your function, your business rules. You can just call echo. And then we have business rules, and I'm going to put a bunch of stars here across to there. Array parsing rules in order. first one here is replace character, character with character. Input data, input metadata, arrow function to array parsing dot replace character with character, and it's going to take input data and input metadata, and then we do a comma, and I'm going to drop down 2 lines, okay, and then we've got this same thing here. Let me move this off to the side so you can see it a little better. Well, that didn't help too much, but I think you get the idea. It's just going to have this input metadata down here on the end, same as this. Now this becomes string parsing. And then we have parse system root path, input data, input metadata, string parsing dot parse system root path, input data, input metadata, and a comma. And I'm just going to keep going because there's a ton of these. String to data type. Input data, input metadata, string parsing dot string to data type, input data, input metadata, string to boolean, input data, input metadata, string parsing dot string to boolean, input data, input metadata, determine object data type, input data, input metadata, string parsing dot determine object data type, input data, input metadata. Okay.
Which linter are you using?
I don't actually have linter installed. We're going to need to start linting this project at some point. In fact, I was just talking to Divian about that. Divian is the guy I mentioned. The is boolean.
There's another one?
Data, yep. Input data, metadata. Arrow function, string parsing, dot is boolean. Input data, input metadata. Is integer. Input data, input metadata, string parsing dot is integer, input data, input metadata, is float, input data, input metadata, string parsing dot is float, data, input metadata, I guess that one doesn't need a comma at the end. Okay. Alrighty, so I think...
The linter does it.
Oh, linter does it? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Either way, I guess that could be taken either way. So next is we need to start establishing our actual rules folder, which, just give me a second here. Okay, so under business rules, we need to make a new folder called rules.
Within business rules folder, make a new folder called rules.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And then inside rules, we need to make our first file is parsing array.js. And there's only one business rule here, so we can implement this one. And if we get started on string parsing, that'd be good, but you know, we'll do the best we can here. So the usual header, that file arrayParsing.js. That module arrayParsing.
Okay, arrayParsing. rulesLibrary.
Contains all system-defined business rules for parsing arrays with various operations. And we literally don't really have anything else right now. So it's just the copyright, date, author, and requires path. Find it. Oops, I didn't spell that right. Business rules for parsing arrays with various operations. And then we literally have just the path and this other stuff, so it's 3 lines we can copy paste. One thing you'll have to change here is business rules dot rules. We've added a new folder. And then we're ready to go ahead and implement this function, which is export const replace character with character equals function. And you'll notice this time we're doing export const instead of just const. It's a different way of
Replace
writing.
character with character? Okay.
Yeah, it's a slightly different way of writing business rules. Input data, input metadata. And then the header for that, oh, this is a little bit involved. This header is a little bit involved. This all should move over by 1. Okay. So the header, that function, replace character with character, description, replaces all of the specified character in the input data with another specified character. String, and this one takes an array of string comma string. And it returns a string. Input data should say a string that may or may not contain the specified characters. I'll put that in parentheses. That should be converted to another specified character. Input metadata is described as an array of data that contains 2 additional string parameters. And so input metadata 0 equals character to find. And that is the character to be searched and replaced from the input string. let me get rid of this so you can read. Input metadata 1 is character to replace. The character that should be used to replace the character for replacement. Return is the same as the input string, but with specified characters converted to the other specified character. And author and date. I think we can just copy paste one of these. Yeah, like this one right here under data broker.
Data broker.
Yeah, that'll work. Pre-processed JSON files. Yeah, that'd be good. And we'll paste that in there. The function name. That drops down. Begin. Okay, so we're going to actually uncomment this. Uncomment this. And wipe out the implementation. Okay, and this should return data is.
So you uncomment the console.
Uncomment those. We need the input data here. And I guess I'll copy paste this return. JSON stringify at it already. And input metadata can go there.
Put data.
We got the return. The return data should be a string, so we shouldn't need to do JSON stringify. Yeah, we technically shouldn't need to do that because it's supposed to be a string. Supposed to be. Okay. And that's most of it. There's only a few other lines of code in here. So now we can say let return data, and we'll say let character to find equals input metadata 0. Let character to replace equal input metadata 1. And then we say if not input data and not character to find and not character to replace, then return data equals false, else return data equals input data replace character to find character to replace, and that's it. Now we shouldn't need a export module exports because we're already exporting it because we did export const.
So why don't you try doing that before with functions?
How we implement these business rules is a little bit different because we're importing them into the business rules library, and then the rules library puts them on the D data structure. So we only need to export them to the rules library. We don't need to export them anywhere else, and they're not imported anywhere else. And even there, the way we import them, I mean, it just works out that we didn't need to do it. Something with the way JavaScript works. A string parsing file, and we do the usual header stuff and everything we do there. That's the only piece. After that is back to the configuration system, and we will probably go back and review all of our other files to make sure we don't have any other stuff that we missed. Yeah, we'll probably do that first.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man. Have a good evening.
You too.